I find it pretty funny that like the cryptosphere broadly is like, hey, look, there's this like cool new thing, this prediction markets, blah blah blah. It's going to get a lot of media time, and then at the very end, they're like, but it's not. You can't use it if it's in the U.S. Wink, wink. Like there's we preclude people from using it in the United States. Next ad is fucking ExpressVPN. Like Nate Silver was doing that shit on some podcast that he was on, and I just found it so unremarkable as I like doom scroll Polymarket on my phone most hours of the day.
Yeah, it's so stupid that it's not, fully legalized yet. I think it's going to get there, and especially under a Trump administration, right? Like they're, hopefully that he like likes the prediction market because it said he was going to win, and he's he's like, yeah, we should have these for everything, right? That would be
Dude,
ideal.
he was the favorite son of the prediction market. There was all the like reporting done about the French trader, the like overzealous French trader who like I guess nobody has heard from him since, probably because he's anon right now. He made it.
He
He's
made like
full Lambo.
100 million on one trade, and it was an obvious fucking trade. Like like it was the most obvious fucking trade. Like we all should have been buying Trump at 60 cents.
Did you see there wasn't I saw this on X, so big grain of salt, but someone talked about his methodology as being the neighbor polling method as opposed to the real polling method, where like rather than a pollster asking you who you were going to vote for, a pollster asks you like who your next door neighbor is going to vote for. And apparently those polls skewed Trump like 70-30, something to that effect, like way outside what was actually being polled, the 50-50 race that everyone thought. Like, is that good use of polling? A bad use of polling? Like, is it just nonsense? Like it's easier to fucking that's the closest thing you can do to like condescend your neighbor, I suppose. Maybe it's different in different circles. I don't know. I found it kind of interesting.
It is interesting, and I mean, I think it gets to the truth that pollsters just have like trouble, or they've had trouble contacting and getting reliable answers from Trump voters because they're just not interested in taking the polls. But I also think that I also think that if we actually look at the polls this year, benchmarked to 2020, benchmarked to 2016, like they were pretty predictive. They showed Trump, by ahead by, or they showed Trump doing much better than he did in either of those years, and that's what he did. And so, like, I really think that you do have to just make the adjustment there if you're looking at normal polls and not believing them from what they're worth. And it's like everything, right? There's a base effect to it. You have to think about the poll relative to other polls, right? You can't just think about the poll as an actual accurate representation of the U.S. electorate.
I mean, especially when you look at the actual sample size for some of these polls, it's like 400 people. Like, I feel like just in like a 5 mile radius from where I sit right now, I could assemble a motley crew of 400 crazy people fairly easily. Like, just fucking ragtag bunch, probably like pretty, interested in doing a lot of drugs. I mean, shit, San Francisco, I'm sure you could as well. Like, this, how could you extrapolate this to a population, a sample set of like 150 million people, 100 million people? It just feels like we continue to delude ourselves on purpose every campaign cycle, where it's like, look at the polls, look at the polls, look at the polls, as if it's some sort of gospel. And then we all just act surprised when the result deviates from the polls so widely. Like, it becomes a game type question of like, who is the most accurate pollster? It's like it's reminiscent of like the monkey and the dartboard and all of the false idols about expertism.
So true. I mean, yeah. You got to think about like, who are these pollsters? Most of the time, they're inside the Beltway types. Like they probably live in DC, and they're just making calls or sending out online, surveys. I guess is what they've done in the past. And yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. I think definitely prediction markets are above polls in how I'm going to look at the next set of elections. But I do think I think the polls showed something. It's just that it wasn't that clear. It was opaque because like the actual result was different from what they said.
I mean, the fact that he swept all 7 swing states is like, that's, I mean, I get that in isolation, like different scenarios were more favored than others, but in totality, that scenario felt like it was way, way outside in terms of its chances. Like I felt like the mode outcome, if you were running the model, was like Trump wins by piercing the blue wall. That's it. And like up all night watching the election results. I mean, this was like a complete nothing burger of an election night almost. Like it almost was never fun. It never got to the point where it was like interesting. It was just, oh, here are all the states we called, and then Trump's going to win.
Yeah. You could go to bed pretty early in the night and still feel good about it. Or good that you knew the result.
Good if you're a Nazi.
You're a fascist.
Sleeping in my Nazi bed tonight.